calendar for today. Executive session may be held on any bills referred to the committee. Please note that there is no physical location for members of the public to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that all members of the committee and the select legislative staff have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through the Zoom electronic meeting platform. And the public has access to contemporaneously listening and, if necessary, participate in the meeting via Zoom platform or by telephone. All necessary access information has been made available in the House calendar and through the electronic calendar on the General Court's website. The notice for this meeting complies with House rules and RSA 91A. Anyone who has a problem accessing this meeting should call 271-3600 or email hcs@leg.state.nh.us. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all the votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also whether there's anyone in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. Okay, Keith, you're on.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Calling the roll. Representative Hunt.
Yes, I am here and I am by myself.
Representative Matusik.
Yes, I am here up in my room alone.
Representative Osborne. Representative Ammon here and alone. Representative Abramson. Representative Ham. Representative De Palma. Representative Greason.
Present and alone.
Representative Johnson.
Here and alone.
Representative Terry.
I'm here and I'm alone.
Representative Bartlett.
I'm here alone in the room.
Representative Abel. Representative Herbert. Representative Van Houten.
Present, alone.
Representative Fargo.
I'm here and I'm alone.
Representative Weston.
Here and alone in this room.
Representative Bellew.
Here, home alone.
Representative Burrows.
I'm here and I'm home alone.
Representative McAleer. Okay, is there anyone that I missed that joined after I started calling?
Bonnie Ham.
Okay, Bonnie.
And Representative Herbert didn't unmute himself.
Yeah, right.
Oh, okay, he's here.
I'll mouth it, but
You can read lips.
So 14 present, Mr. Chair.
And I assume, Chris, you're alone, just to be. You're still muted.
And I'm alone. Bonnie's alone.
Okay.
Representative Herbert, I think you unmuted yourself, but now you've got your microphone way down.
Yeah, the
So
microphone.
we didn't hear you.
We didn't hear you. No, we still.
You're still muted. Yeah. Now you gotta turn up your microphone. I think you've got it all the way down. No, now you're muted.
Maybe sign language.
This is how.
Okay. So Dawn, you're at not in the room, right? I don't see anybody in the room.
No, I'm at home today.
Okay, great.
I overslept.
Yeah, no reason to go in for just this. Okay. All right, so we'll open up. This is a non-germane hearing on an amendment to Senate Bill 125. I assume everybody has a copy of it. It has my name on it, and the number is 1237. And what I'll do a brief thing, and then I will then ask people to speak who have signed up for it. Basically, one of the reasons I did this is the non-germaneness they're still liquor related. Everything's liquor related, but the non-germaneness is there are different RSAs that were being brought in than came in the original bill. But one of the things I was acutely aware was that we were going to be mending certain sections. So I really want to make I know we've got a lot of new members in the committee, so that this is sometimes is a little complicated. So it's important, I figure this is a good learning opportunity so everybody can follow how it happens. So when you look at the bill, at the amendment that you'll see on line 1, it talks about amending by section 5. So that means section 1, 2, and 3, and 4 are untouched in the original bill. So if you were to really follow along what we're passing or pass it, is that you would still need to have the copy from the Senate of how Senate Bill 125 and have those sections. So then you see that we're going to be amending section 5. And then if you look on the next page, then you have section 6. And this is a little confusing, so it's important to follow. If you get to the last page, page 3, and it'll say amend the bill by inserting after section 7 the following and renumber sections 8 to read as 12. So you say, oh my God, what happens? Okay, so now we're going to stick some new paragraphs in because we always want the effective date to be the last line in the bill. Okay, why? I don't know. It's just tradition, but we don't like it in the middle of a bill. We want it always at the end. So section 8, which was, if you were looking at the original bill, the effective date, that is now number 12. And so we inserted 8, 9, and 10, 11. Okay, anybody? Question? Yes, Anita.
Representative McAleer just called me. He said he is on the call. He didn't know if there's a way that Pam might be able to help him come on the panel, but he has been on the call from the beginning.
Really? Okay, so he must be over the attendees again. So I
just brought him over.
Thank you. Okay.
Thanks for letting me know. I didn't.
You're faster than I am, Pam.
Well.
But okay. All right, great. And then I see Representative Abrams is now with us.
Hey, I have a question. I can't find the raise your hand feature.
On your screen, I don't know what. Yeah, I see my raise my hand is down at the bottom where all the icons are. Sometimes it's in. Sometimes it. What was it? Another screen said it was
Sometimes it's in the upper right if it's an iPad.
You can also touch the screen and the taskbar should come up on the bottom.
I found that there's something else other than raising hand. There was other like little icons, faces, that kind of stuff. So if you go into there, the raise the hand is one of the icons.
All right, this one. Do you see it
There
now?
you go. Now we got you.
Okay, good enough. I still don't have the copy of the amendment. I don't see it in my email. Maybe I'm not.
Weeks ago.
It also Aiden Moore sent it out accidentally last night. So you might have it again if you can just type in Aiden in your search engine of your email.
Check your trash.
He did send it out last night.
Okay, I have one that just showed up this morning.
Okay, so that's a little different. What he showed up this morning is going to be a summary sheet, which is really his testimony of what the amendment does. But if you can pull up what he did, what he sent yesterday, you'll see the actual amendment 1237.
I can send it again if you like.
Yeah, could you do that, Pam? That would be great.
Sure.
All right, so let's Senator Gannon. Yeah, Senator Gannon, I'm going to now promote him up. And good morning, Senator Gannon. Bill, are you there?
Let's see if this video.
Maybe not.
See the top of my head.
Oh, he disappeared. Okay, so he's gonna have to try to come back in again, probably.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Good morning. Will he be testifying as the sponsor of this?
He
or-
is, he's technically the sponsor. Anybody can, when this is technically, I mean, I don't know, this is like a hearing, but it's really a subcommittee meeting. So, pretty much anybody who want to weigh in, we'll certainly listen to them. But that, because he has seen the amendment and wanted to speak towards the amendment, he wanted to assure everybody that he's in support. That's the reason why he signed up for it.
So you won't be doing an overview of what you have?
So my overview, I'm going to let Aiden explain to you what the overview is, simply because he's the one who really. I had all the ideas in my head, but he's the one that put it in paper and the words that put the amendment together. So I was going to have him explain it. Okay, so there's Senator Gannon. Okay, and I'm going to promote the panelist. Let's see if this works this time. Good morning, Senator Gannon. Don't we just love computers?
Can't wait till we get back to normal.
So Mr. Chair, while
Yes.
we're waiting,
Yes.
to perhaps save time later on, do you happen to know what the science is behind a maximum of 27 gallons in provision?
Hold on, Trish. Never mind.
Okay, there he is.
Yay.
So the answer, just a second, Bill. The answer is pretty much all these numbers that are in there are just statutory numbers that we have created in the past. And so they were, I would be honest, they were created out of whole cloth. Yes. So, but I would say that when it comes to the magic number of 8% in terms of of other drinks, that number was created over time based upon what was in the marketplace.
But there's not necessarily any science behind 27.
There's no science on anything. Everything in the legislature, it's
no settled science.
Everything is a rabbit hole.
No settled science.
So, okay, Senator Gannon, you're on.
Thank you. So where are we at? So I read your bill. The only thing I had a question on, Chairman Hunt, was in lines 22 through 26 of your amendment. I just didn't, and it's probably because I'm a lawyer and I dwell on small details. It wasn't clear to me that I could sell at where my manufacturing plant is and also at the one specialty outlet. Is that clear enough to you in the writing?
So actually, that would already be in the current statute.
Okay, so you
That
can
would
do
be,
it.
so that's why it was never addressed in the bill, because that there was always the opportunity to sell in your manufacturing location.
Okay. So otherwise, I thought your amendment was really good. I wish I could draft so well.
I wish me too.
So I'm not going to I presented it a week ago. I'm relatively happy with what you've done. And what was my one change I suggested to you on Friday? I'm sorry.
You're wondering why nanos don't have another location.
Oh yeah. So why are you? Because you're thinking it's not a bar and it shouldn't be at so many places. You're giving us the one.
Well, no, the nano. It's actually there's several ideas of thoughts about what's going on with nanos. First of all, the nano license is a very, 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 very cheap license. Okay. As a matter of fact, that so you start out with simply saying is okay, you get what you pay for. So if you really want to have an extra location, you should upgrade to the big boy license.
I get you.
And let alone the fact that you're supposed to be a nano. You're actually supposed to be doing this like in your garage. It's sort of a hobby. So you really how can you be stretching yourself to have two locations when it's just supposed to be a hobby? And third is that the dirty little secret is that because their license is so cheap, they could open 3 or 4 nanos for the price of one custom brewer. So there's really no need, and because the nanos are limited to their production anyway. So they're really, the idea of having an extra location really doesn't make any sense at this point.
Can I ask you one more question?
Yes.
So why can't I team up with, if I own one of these small nanos, what's the problem with me teaming up with another nano and having it like an outlet on Portsmouth so we get exposure, but I'm cutting the cost in half to have.
I'd say that's a concept we should be thinking about in terms of going future years about how multiple locations can have a joint location. It notwithstanding that it technically is the violation of the 3-tier system,
Sure.
because what they would really want is that location that's being opened up is be a carrying all these different beers should really be an off-premise licensee, and that's not, they should not necessarily be a beverage location. There should be an off-premise licensee. So the question is, does the 3-tier language, we bar them from having some joint ownership or joint things? But theoretically, there's nothing stopping anybody to say, okay, I'm going to open up an off-premise licensee, and I'm going to carry all these local beers and everything like that. There's nothing stopping them from doing that now. So the issue is it ownership, and who's at ownership, and how many people? I don't know. We can certainly discuss that, but at this point, anybody can start an off-premise licensee and carry all the beers they want, and have it all self-distributed by all these different manufacturers, which I would hope somebody would do that, frankly, but I don't know. I don't know how much of a market is for that.
Other than that, I'm very, very happy with your amendment.
Okay, great. Representative Burrows has a question.
Yes, I do have a question. Thank you. In section 3, we're talking about section 3, talking about the names of addresses of purchasers to whom the alcoholic beverages are shipped. I didn't see this in the original bill. And what is the purpose for that? Why do they need to have the names and addresses of the consumer?
So section 3,
number 2.
the in the amendment you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay, so there is a 3.
Lines 4
I'm
through-
sorry, it's in 4. It's in 4, number 2.
Okay, number 4. Okay, this is direct shipping.
Yeah.
So direct shipping means that somebody is shipping from their location to somebody at their residence.
Yes.
So yes, so they report to the state in New Hampshire that we collected 8% tax. We actually have a cross-checking system, in which is if they use UPS or FedEx, we can cross-check to see that was properly booked and entered in, and that's the reason why you have the name and address of where it was shipped to.
Follow up, please.
Further question? You may
How
have.
onerous is that going to be for these companies?
It's been the law for 25 years.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Representative McAleer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had that same objection that Anita has, but if it's been the law, I don't see that we can change it right now. But I do have another question, and that's it's the second page. It's number 32 on page 2. So I go into one of these places and I can order one beer. And then if I want to order another beer, I got to have something to eat. And I'm out of there. That I don't quite understand that. Why the 1 beer limit?
Okay, well, that's the kind of the heart of this legislation. So I guess we should address this. All right. So it goes back to, at one point in time in history, if you were a beverage manufacturer, you didn't have any tastings. Okay, you didn't. Nobody came into your location at all. And so then we said, well, we should allow them to have tastings. And the first question is that we came up was how much can they taste? So the idea of this tasting, the original tastings, was just the samplers, was just 4 ounces. Okay. And you can have 4 ounces of whatever they have available for tastings. So that could be more than 16 ounces if they have more than 4 beers. Let's say they had 6 beers. So that could be 6 times 4. But then some people say, no, what people really want is they want to come in and just have a pint. I just want to have a pint of beer. So then we changed the legislation to a pint. And at the same time, we also clarified that whether they could sell this beer, because before those samples were given away free. The law actually required that beer and wine and everything had to be given away free. And so you say, well, we're giving a lot of money away. This is, and so some people say, well, we really want to be able to charge for that pint. We want that full pint. We want to charge for it. And that was fine. So then the next debate was to make sure we clarified that, yes, if they're selling that pint of beer, they need to collect the meals tax, the old rooms and meals tax. So that was it. So what you're seeing is every year we've done these different steps. We get going down this pipeline. Now, the ultimate question is, well, then, see, in other states, you can have as many pints as, well, can't have as many as you want because you might have too many and they're not allowed to overserve you. But in New Hampshire, we've always had this require a food requirement. In other words, we're the only state, and certainly in New England, and I really don't know how many different states, but we really could be the only state in the union that requires that we don't have bars. Okay, we just don't have bars. In my memory from Pittsburgh, or even when I was in college, or prep school at Deerfield, when I was actually legal to drink at 18, I'd go into Greenfield, Mass, and there was this hole in the wall bar, and all it sold was 50-cent beers. But they had no food requirement. Now in New Hampshire, we don't have that. Every facility that sells alcohol has to have a food requirement. So at what point, when you're talking about a beverage manufacturer, report how far are we going to go down this line without this food requirement. So what the compromise and the way we have kind of negotiated, and my understanding is that the brewers, these custom brewers, and certainly the Nails, they're okay with what we have come up with, what the compromise has been, which is that you can get that one pint. Okay, you can now get the full pint, you get a pint. Now, if you want that second pint, now they have to be a Nano Plus. Then, did you get that little spreadsheet of all the different that Aiden had sent out? It was very handy, and everybody, I probably should have meant to send it out again, but it was a little handy. He said it shows you all the different licenses and all the different things that they're required to do. So we do have this Nano Plus, but the Nano Plus was not that much more in license fee, but that it did allow to have that second pint, but under the condition that the beverage manufacturer would have somebody there selling food. And so since we know that a Nano shouldn't be in the food business, so we did allow for food trucks, for instance, that you can have, bring anybody, bring someone in who can make food or sell food. And so that was where the political compromise has been over the years, the last couple of years, is that why we do it. Now, at some point you say is, well, should go beyond 2 pints and go to the sky's the limit. But I think we're really at the edge now where we pretty much have got the agreement that this is a reasonable compromise. They're not restaurants. They're not going to go forward and get the full restaurant license, and they don't want to be in that business, right? They're beverage manufacturers. So does that answer your question? Great. And I see Connie has her hand up. Yes, Connie, Representative Van Houten. And you need to unmute.
I was trying the space bar and that didn't work. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that works randomly.
I would love to have Aiden send that out again. It was really an incredible resource. I'm sure I have one someplace, but if he would send that out again, that would be fantastic. Yeah. And I'd just like to follow up with what you're saying, because I was around for a lot of that legislation. Yes. And it just always kind of rankles my sensitivities that with the Nano Plus, you can actually go in and get a quart of beer and have a bag of peanuts. I think
no, you can't have a bag of peanuts. No.
All right, a couple of bags of peanuts and peanut butter on a piece of bread. Nonetheless, food does not have to be a staple or a meal or something of that sort. And I would like to just reiterate what I've said before. And again, I've worked on the liquor bills. As you know, I chaired the subcommittee on liquor last session. And I really wonder how much we're putting Band-Aids on Band-Aids. And given that we had some recent concerns with the audit and some changes because of the audit, some changes outside the audit, I really think we have to start to look at getting the structure of the 3-tier system intact before we keep putting Band-Aids and Band-Aids and Band-Aids. And I'm not necessarily saying that I'm opposed to some of these things. I, like many people, enjoy a glass of wine with my peanuts. However, I am getting concerned about that. And once we look at this and start to say you can have a quart of beer with a little bit of food, are we pushing the limits? And if we don't like the 3-tier system, if that needs to be jettisoned, I really think it's time to take a look at that. We've evolved in terms of our liquor. We've evolved in terms of our economy on the basis of liquor. We have restaurants that are very supportive of liquor legislation that helps them to prosper and bring tourists to our state. I worked with John Patusik on a commission for tourism as it relates to liquor. There's so much out there, and it's no wonder that we have little questions as we go forward. So thank you for giving me a second for that little bit of a soapbox, but I do think that there needs to be something more than just piece. Let's get this fleshed out and put together so that it's best for our state.
Right. Well, one piece I want to is that even before I got involved in this issue ever came to Commerce, okay, the 3-tier system was already thrown in the trash can when it came to brew pubs, and so that obviously everything we do, because it's Mother May I, every step has to be, we have to decide what we're going to allow and how we rationalize how we allow it. Okay. I would say when it comes to the food requirement, and as I've mentioned before, and I'm sure you've heard me say, I think that the food requirement was something that when initially, how did they really think it was that important, or was everybody really conscious of it? I don't know. But I think when you look at Representative Abronson's bill, when he's saying is, all right, do we really want bacon and eggs and, and bread is, at the convenience store, is that really a judge of what we mean by the food requirement? So I'd say almost everything we do with the liquor law is a progression. It changes. All right. We have to way we look at it, way we're handling it, way we perceive it. I certainly am going to say is that I tried before to actually have bars in New Hampshire, and it was going to be a whopping fee, but if they really we were going to have one, but the bill died, and I did another one. It was sort of like to change the licenses, and that bill died. So I would say at this point, I certainly think it makes sense, and this is just my opinion, and obviously everybody's entitled to their own opinion, that we want to ensure that this food requirement is not peanuts, it's not chips, it's anything that room meals tax is taxing. So if meals tax is that statute is very distinctive and very big. And I'll never forget it because I was around. I was in the House at the time when we were debating what they called the snack tax. Okay, that what was going to be in the meal tax and was snacks, like when you buy from a machine, where it was the peanut butter and crackers or peanuts and stuff. And that was the clear decision that those are not meals. They're not necessarily healthy foods, right? And so that was not included in the meals tax, but that the meals tax really was going to be as well distinctive. There had to be a little bit of cooking involved. There had to be some heating things up, and that, like I say, that to me is the direction I think we should go in firming up that that people have some kind of foods. And my understanding is that Tuckerman's is now they're doing paninis, which is fairly easy. Piece of bread, you get the cheese, you squeeze it, stick it in, and voila, they got a nice sandwich, and it's healthy for you, and it's a good sandwich. And I think that's shows that we're making progress on this issue. So I'm not overly worried about the food concern, but in terms of the 3-tier and what how does the 3-tier really mean much in this whole scheme of things? I don't know. It's a concept, but we've obviously we've worked so many loopholes around it and so many things around it. I'm not sure that I would say that I would fall on my sword on defending the 3-tier. I think Max had the next one to have his hand up. So Representative Abramson.
I was just going to make a quick comment on this 3-tiered system. I thought of putting together a study committee bill on that, but I think it would be, I would rather go back to your original idea of splitting the Commerce Committee into 3, have the liquor, alcohol related laws group, but to have that, I was wondering if we could have that group meet over the summer and review all the 3-tier issue problems, and take input from members, and see what they want to do with the food requirement, if they want to keep the 3-tier system or go to something proportionate or what have you.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah,
not-
that's absolutely what my plan is, that we'll have our divisions, the 3 divisions. And so we'll go forward come next fall based on those 3 divisions. And the liquor one is free to talk about whatever they want to talk about. and so, yes, no, that's absolutely what I'm thinking about doing next. Thank you.
Okay. What, did you have a date or not a date, but a general ballpark of when and how often you want to meet?
Again, I'm assuming that, that, I don't know, but, again, July and August, we've always stayed out of the house. So I'm assuming that come September, we'll all be back. And then each division will have its own chairman, and we'll call the meetings, work with the people in terms of the calling meetings. I know some people want to take vacations in September and October, so we obviously want to be flexible with that when which each subcommittee and what they're doing on vacation time. But but yes, I would say I would be in person come September.
I'd like to have at least 1 or 2 meetings before that, because in order to introduce bills for next year. I'm also one of the co-chairs on the Vegas caucus, which proposes, repealing certain laws and legalizing certain things. So I'd like to have some meetings and have some input and discuss ideas rather than introduce a bill. Find out if there's actually any interest from the committee in putting some of these bills in.
Okay, well, I'll start working on it right now and get it together. Okay, Representative Bilo.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just wondering if the Restaurant and Lodging Association, are they around today?
So they did not sign up. I see Henry is there. So, and I don't know, Summers is there. So we can get Henry to maybe convince him to speak.
Yeah, because I think this bill, I think they really should be speaking up because it will affect the Restaurant and Lodging Association.
My understanding is that the way I've crafted this amendment and working with the commission, that they are this follows with the guidelines. It doesn't change anything from what they're doing, and actually gives them a new opportunity to actually get direct shipping to them. So it actually gives them something that they didn't have before. But okay, that's it for the committee. All right, so I will now call the next person to sign up. I was going to call. Well, I don't know, Henry. Henry, raise your hand if you want to talk. Otherwise, if you feel like you don't have anything to say, don't bother. And I will call on right now. Who has signed up is the Grocers Association, and I will promote them. And good morning.
Morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning, John. How are you?
Very well, thank you. I'm trying to get my video up there. That's important. I don't know if it is or not, but there we go.
There you are.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for inviting us to come back and be part of this. We appreciate that. I've been following this all morning long, and I think that it's a very informative discussion you're having, especially on the 3-tier system. And I think that everyone understands that the 3-tier system started back with the end of Prohibition. The reason for Prohibition was that during that time, there was a lot of bootlegging that was going on, and it was just a wild west of everything. And when they decided to repeal Prohibition, they came up with the concept of the 3-tier system to protect the fact that a manufacturer would not be a wholesaler, and a wholesaler would not be a retailer. Therefore, having certain Chinese walls, if you want to call it that, between the different factions of a production and distribution of alcoholic beverages. And that's served us well for all these years, that there's a reason why there's a 3-tier system. And so we would certainly support that. We always have supported that. Our association was formed back in 1933 when we saw this coming. And it was a concern that we wanted to see the 3-tier system to protect all 3 entities in the process of doing that going forward. I also want to just thank, while I have the time to do this, to thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the committee for the work you've done on this amendment and this other parts. We are very much supportive of everything you're doing with this. It's exactly what we would like to see happen to protect that. The other fact is talk about the food requirement. There's a concern with that, that Restaurant and Lodging has issued, as long as we have too, that we're concerned about drinking without any food consumption. And that when you take food into consideration with that, you're absorbing some of that alcohol, you're having less likely being impaired during the process. So there is a reason for it. It's not protecting anything in particular. It's more of protecting the public from drunk drivers.
Great. Are you willing to take a question? Because I see-
Absolutely. Glad to.
Okay. Representative Van Houten, do you have a question for?
Actually,
John
I do
Dumas?
not. I have a comment that I would like to address to you.
Okay, great.
Before I forget it. Two issues. Again, you know my attention to language detail. And in the amendment in line 7 on page 1, the permit shall authorize the holder to sell and deliver alcohol beverages. I believe the word should be deliver in order to make the amendment correct.
So this is line 7,
Line 7, page 1.
to sell and deliver. Okay. All right, to know why though.
And while I'm at it, on page 2, line 4, I would just like to mention something that I often comment about because it is bothersome to me, the words "in a timely manner." I never know how we define that. Is a timely manner 1 day, 1 year, 1 month? How does one define that? I realize that's a very difficult concept to deal with, but leaving something open-ended like that has always been an affront to my sensibility of language. Thanks for having me.
Okay. I think in timely manner is the eyes of the beholder. So, but, okay. And then deliver versus delivery, theoretically, we should correct that. But just so for everybody knows, there is another entity, step before bills get signed by the governor, and it's called enrolled bills. It's part of the Legislative Administration Committee, which I did have the fortune to be the chair for one term, and in which the enrolled committee would go through anything that of those kind of typos and correct them. So there is a process, but yes, we would try to correct it.
And while I'm aware of that, our integrity as a committee is always on the line, and we want to be the best that we can be.
We want to be good wordsmiths. Okay. All right. So Henry did not put his hand up, so I guess he doesn't necessarily want to share. So I will ask Aiden Moore to go through the amendment and be able to answer any specific questions that anybody might have. So you're on, Aiden. Oh, look at that fancy library.
I have all those books at home.
Yes.
I thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. And first, let me apologize for the flurry of emails that you received from me this morning in an attempt to get you this information accurately. I think my last email was accomplished that task thanks to Pam Smarling for putting me on the right path here. Thank you, Chairman, for explaining that your amendment 1237 lies on top of Senator Gannon's amendment 0745, which I think will help in case anyone has any questions about if these parts need to be looked at in a whole fashion. On the amendment, your amendment 1237, Mr. Chairman Hunt, we're looking at page 1, line 3, where we now have established a new provision in statute called the direct-to-consumer shipments of alcohol. Now, to have this make any sense, members of the committee, you need to know that RSA 17827 is the direct shipping statute. And we talked a little bit about trying to fit the ability for licensees in New Hampshire to send products to New Hampshire consumers by amending 17827. And that didn't really make much sense. It would create some type of a colossus statute. And so therefore the approach that we took was to take the pieces out of 17827 And I forget which representative asked the question of why I think it might have been Representative Burrows, who was asking the question about reporting and keeping names, et cetera. And what you see in this provision, which starts and ends on page 2, line 16, is essentially an incorporation of much of the language from 178.27 into this new statute. All the reporting requirements, all the packaging requirements, all the signature requirements that exist in the law, which applies to businesses who are existing out of state and ship into New Hampshire, would now apply to businesses located in New Hampshire, shipping to New Hampshire consumers. So we've brought all those pieces across. Oftentimes when legislation in alcohol is introduced, there are questions about parity and is it equal? And so therefore, what we've proposed here in this amendment is to bring all the limitations, and I think in the executive summary, you see the limitations on quantity. And those quantity limitations, which exist in the direct shipping law, have also been brought across and applied in the direct to consumer piece that's being proposed in the 178.27B section. So with that, I guess, Mr. Chairman, if you'd like, I can pause and take any questions from members about this particular piece, or
Okay,
just
we'll
wait
do
to the
that.
end.
Okay, so we'll say any questions. So Representative Bartlett, did you have a question?
I
about the
do, and
third?
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I was looking at the executive summary. And Mr. Moore, it refers to amendment 1191, but the amendment that we're looking at is 1237.
Correct.
That's correct. And I think
So-
that's part of the flurry of emails I sent this morning, the last one you received from me was the correct one. And I apologize for any inconvenience I've caused you.
I'm sorry, then I'll go back and print it out. Sorry.
Okay, my apologies, ma'am.
Yeah, there wasn't a big change between the two. Okay, Representative Burrows.
Yes, Mr. Moore, thanks for taking my question. I understand what you're saying about parity between out of state and the in-state shipping. My question is, I'm just kind of trying to understand why the limitations of, say, 60 individual containers in a calendar year, because I'm thinking of a scenario where somebody's having a home wedding, which is pretty common, and that doesn't seem like a lot of liquor if you're having over 100 people for a home wedding, something like that.
Thanks for your question, Representative. I think what you're seeing in this amendment is a gap filler. There's no limitation on the person that you've described in your scenario, who can go to, for example, a convenience store, purchase as much as they wish. They could go to a beverage wholesaler, purchase as much as they wish. In the amendment 0745 from Senator Gannon, we've removed the limitations that were imposed upon a beverage manufacturer, which up to this point in time was limited to selling an individual case or a 15.5 gallon keg. That's been removed in the bill. So we've essentially stripped the limitations away. And if you think of 178.27B as really rounding out the entire process, this was kind of an area that was really not touched. Mr. Dumas and his members, for example, could deliver. Any one of his members can deliver to a consumer and has had that ability. And to just kind of reference who this applies to, if you look on page 1 of the amendment, lines 5 and 6, that this direct to consumer piece is really now applicable to manufacturers, nanobrewers, brew pubs, wine manufacturers, liquor manufacturers, and beverage distributors. So these are the class of licensees now who will be allowed to proceed to ship directly to consumers within the state, following the provisions below regarding the time, place, and manner that this is supposed to happen. So I hope I've answered your question, Representative. If not, I'll be happy to try to do it again.
Yeah, I don't want to belabor it, but I'm just, again, I'm still struggling to understand. I understand that it's.
Okay, so I can answer this question.
Good, okay.
So the answer is very simple, actually, and Aiden was probably would not be one to say this, but this was the political compromise for me to get the direct shipping passed, because we don't. The Liquor Commission doesn't want you to be buying wine directly from California. They want you to come to our liquor stores and buy it from us. So the issue was at how much can they ship to you as the consumer and be reasonable, not have a dent in our overall revenue source, which is the Liquor Commission. So these numbers are set really it was a balancing act to how much is appropriate, how much is enough. Yeah, it is true. If you plan to have a big old wedding and you want to have certain beer that you can't get in New Hampshire, and you want to take advantage of the 60, I guess you would just have to have family members, somebody else also with a different address also order it. So if enough of you order different, maybe you can get enough. But the idea was that we didn't want any outside manufacturer outside the state and to think that this is an opportunity to bypass our distribution system or our Liquor Commission, and that's the real answer.
Thank you. That makes total sense now. Thank you very much.
Okay. Representative McAleer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm looking through this and I don't see anything, and maybe I'm missing it, about New Hampshire brewers, et cetera, shipping out of state.
That's what this bill, that's exactly what this section is this intra-state shipment is, well, actually, let me put it this way. The direct shipping law was, is currently being used by beverage manufacturers. So a beverage manufacturer right now can ship beer or anything out of state, and that's using the direct shipping law. With this statute, is what you're seeing here is just intrastate. And that was I guess we could say a loophole, but that but we could have just simply said, okay, fine, we'll allow them to be in the same direct shipping law. But then I didn't really want double taxation. I mean, I want be able to, if a New Hampshire citizen, to be able to get beer or get a wine or beer having shipped to them and not have to pay the 8% tax. So, but the question you're asking is, can they now ship out of state? And yes, they can, but that's in the direct shipping law, which is not, it's not in this bill.
My point is, can they ship more out of state than they can ship intrastate?
There's no limitation.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, may I follow up with that?
Yes.
The Representative McAleer, the businesses in New Hampshire can ship out of state so long as they follow the requirements in those existing states to which they ship, who may have their own.
The other state is the problem. Right.
Similar. So, for example, while we have RSA 17827 for businesses who ship into New Hampshire, other states may have similar legislation prescribing how a business located outside of their state lines, what they must do to ship to consumers within their state. So this is a state by state issue, and our direct shipping really only addresses people shipping into the state, and 17827B kind of rounds out that piece as it relates to businesses shipping to consumers within the state.
Okay. All right, great. Representative Ammon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Moore, for taking our questions and listening to our concerns. I'm surprised to hear that the state is collecting names and addresses of people receiving shipments, and thinking about privacy aspect of this. I understand that it might be a way to enforce this 60 container limit. Is that correct?
No, it's really to enforce, A is that the person is actually, who the person is who's getting it, and we want to make sure that they really are over 21. But more importantly, we also want to make sure that the tax is getting paid. So we actually get this information also from UPS FedEx. When they deliver it, they'll report back to us, so we can match up that with the businesses who are collecting the 8%. So we can make sure that the 8% actually got collected.
Okay, follow up.
Yes, follow for the request you may inquire.
So what data exactly is collected? How is it stored? What's the security around it, and how is it disposed of?
Well, we don't have any credit card numbers. All we would have is the person's name and address. But I don't know. I don't know. Aiden, do we know how tight security is?
Transactional information is really between the consumer and the licensee. So we don't keep that. As Representative Hunt indicated, this is information is requested to provide us with an opportunity to investigate if we need to on enforcing, for example, the limits. So direct shipping 178.27 imposes limits and imposes a tax, as Representative Hunt said. So if we were finding that businesses were shipping into the state, there are two concerns. First, are they paying us what they're owed, what we are owed based upon these transactions? And secondly, by the numbers that are involved, there are provisions in 178.27 that tell these businesses, for example, as Chairman Hunt said, we want consumers in New Hampshire to buy from the State Liquor Commission. But if there's a product that they can't get that is shipped into the state, these limitations are imposed to essentially say to the commission, hey, we didn't know that this was going to be that popular. So if you're shipping enough of it into the state that it's creating a demand, then you need to sell it to us too. And now we're going to put it on our shelves. So that is kind of a hook in there to allow the businesses to ship in, but also to give the commission the opportunity to acquire the product to sell on their shelves. So the information.
Yeah.
So in order to police the businesses, you're surreptitiously collecting data on private citizens. That's what I'm hearing you saying.
It wouldn't be surreptitious because we would be asking them for the information if there was an inkling that there was a problem going on.
You're asking the business, the consumer doesn't know the data is being collected. And I'm assuming it's being stored in some kind of database that you could search later, right? Is that correct?
No, well, no, it would be the business has it. It would be the commission would then is requiring them to hold on to that information so that the commission can ask for it if they need to do an audit or have some reason to investigate. I mean, this is what so it's we're not getting it automatically.
Okay.
We certainly, our computers would never be able to handle that. No, we're only is upon request if there was a situation audited, but like I say, that the other thing that Aidan pointed out was really important to the Liquor Commission was that we don't want like Opus One, to suddenly say, well, because we only sell so much of it, we'll sell it directly, we'll bypass the Liquor Commission completely, and that they didn't that defeat the whole purpose of the bill, which was supposed to find things that not people that we didn't know that people want, and so therefore this is a way to test market and see if there is an interest in the product, and if there is, then of course we want the commission to be able to get it.
So one last follow-up. I know this is my fourth or fifth. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
So how do they know? How does the Liquor Commission know the demand for a product they're not carrying if they're not accessing that data? You see what I mean?
We're getting a report from FedEx and UPS. It doesn't have the names and addresses on it. They're telling us what they're delivering. I think we get the invoices, don't we, Aiden? We get the invoices.
The direct shippers are required to file a monthly report, as is required here in the amendment for 178.27B, where they would file monthly and tell the commission who they're shipping to in New Hampshire. And the limitations are, again, imposed largely for the commercial purposes of determining whether or not this is a product that the commission wants to put on its shelves if it doesn't have it on it now.
So monthly, you're getting names and addresses from every shipper for everything they ship.
That's what they're supposed to report to the commission. That's correct.
So if you don't want you don't want anybody to know that, don't buy off the internet anyways, right?
So my initial supposition was correct.
Yes, I would say yes. Now that I hear that, I would say you're correct that yes, we actually have the names and addresses of all those New Hampshire citizens. So that means Neil Kirk, Mr. Privacy, because I know he likes to buy the wine off the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal. So yes, that we would have their names and addresses. That is true. So if you want privacy, don't order to the mail. Don't internet. Don't. So okay, Representative. Let's see. Greason, this is new for you to ask a question.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess it goes to the privacy issue there. Would it be possible to add something into the bill that says that the commissioner has to destroy the information after it's verified that taxes have been collected?
I would assume that they would destroy the evidence after, if they wouldn't call this evidence, they would destroy this data after a certain point in time. But we can find that out, right, Aidan? We can find out how long they hold on to that information.
Yes, we can.
So we can get that for you. But I mean, I'm sure they're not stacking it all in warehouses, intentionally. That would be
it's computerized, so it would be. Well, I can't say it's computerized because not all of the alcohol industry is computerized. So we may get faxes, we may get emails, but that information is compiled by the commission's examiner unit for the purposes of doing a comparison to ensure the revenues are where they're supposed to be.
Okay, so you're all set, Jeff?
I guess so. I guess I live under the fear of my principal still having my record as a kid, but I guess not.
My best advice is if you're worried about that your name and address being somewhere, I would not be buying anything off the internet.
Yeah, well, I understand that, but if we just put a clause in there that they have to destroy it after
destroy it sometime. But let's find out. Let's find out how long they hold on to that.
Sure, I'm on good.
But okay, Representative Herbert. We still can't hear you. You're not muted, Chris. So it's obviously your volume, or where's your microphone, or is it built in?
His earpiece doesn't look like it has a microphone in it, which might be the problem.
Does he have an earpiece? Oh, yeah, I guess you got headphones on there, Chris? Yeah, so unplug those things. Unplug your.
Does this make a difference?
Yes, now it works.
Okay.
That was absolutely what it was.
That's the problem. You have no microphone in your headset.
Okay. The reason I'm talking is the issue of the shippers giving information to the state in regards to, is it just liquor shipments or is it every shipment?
Liquor. Yeah,
it's just liquor. Okay, so
well, you would say liquor, so beer and wine. I don't know what you mean by.
Well, alcohol. I just
all alcohol.
The way it was stated is almost as though FedEx and UPS had to give you their daily shipments of whatever, and I'm going, no, that's nuts.
No,
okay, that's fine.
All we care about is alcohol.
Well, yeah, I understand that.
All right, Representative McAleer.
Just thank you, Mr. Moore. How often are these violations? I mean, how commonplace is a violation?
Thank you for your question, Representative. We're constantly looking to make sure that the revenues provided by the out-of-state direct shippers are where they're supposed to be. And because I think there are over 1,000 direct shippers that are currently licensed and authorized to ship into New Hampshire, you can well imagine, and especially those who are relatively small, don't ship a lot of quantity, might say, well, you know, we're going to skip this. We're not going to identify this. So we're in a constant process of checking. So actual violations, in the sense that, let's say, for example, aside from the revenue piece, the other consideration are that alcohol is shipped to people who are of appropriate age. And so therefore, our enforcement unit will periodically audit those records to make sure that the alcohol is being properly shipped to those consumers who are of 21 or older in New Hampshire. So I can't give you a precise number of how many violations occur each year, sir, but I can tell you that it is regularly monitored to ensure that the businesses who are licensed are in compliant. And I do have some information, Mr. Chairman, that the shipping information that's provided is kept for the current year +1 in-house. And then those records then go to archives, state archives, for 5 years.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? All right. So we're on to section 2, Aiden.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Section 2 of the amendment 1237 deals with, on page 2, it's number 6 on line 20. And in this, it, as the chairman explained, the sampling piece here is not the new piece. The new piece is that under this amendment provision, a beverage manufacturer would be allowed for a fee of $336 to acquire a single beverage manufacturer retail outlet. So with that, and at the beverage manufacturer's retail outlet, the consumer who came in to visit could have a sample. The sample of their product could be a 4-ounce sample per label. It could be a single 16-ounce pint of their product. And if the location were to provide food, then they could have a second 16-ounce pint as a part of their sampling. The beverage manufacturer would only be allowed to sell their products. They could not sell products from any other business. And the food that is provided could come and be made in-house, or it could be purchased from another source and made available if they wanted to allow consumers to have a second pint. So there is a definition of what a beverage manufacturer retail outlet is, and that exists on Senator Gannon's Amendment 745S on page 4, line 31, which defines a beverage manufacturer retail outlet as an outlet for the sale, sampling, production, or manufacturing and promotion of beverages and products manufactured by the beverage manufacturer licensee. The way this is written, it requires the beverage manufacturer who applies for a beverage manufacturer retail outlet to produce beverages on the facility, at the facility, site of the facility. So there is a production requirement that exists in the definition, which would be required and applied under the amendment on line 20, number 6. And I'm happy to take any questions, Chairman, on that provision.
Okay. Questions? Representative Belo, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Are you talking about a brewery what type of business are you talking about? A beverage manufacturer? It sounds like you're talking about it's a beverage manufacturer, but it's also a restaurant, but not really.
Oh, that's a brew pub.
Thank you for your question, Representative. To help make this as clear as I can, from a beverage manufacturing, and when I say beverage, it's beer, it's something called a specialty beverage, which it's a whole definitional issue. But we have essentially, for the purposes of beer, there are 3 different categories of license that one can acquire.
Right.
A beverage manufacturer license, which is the title of that license. A smaller incubator type of business is a nano brewery. And then the third type of manufacturer would be a brew pub. So when we speak of beverage manufacturer, we're speaking specifically of the license under RSA 178.12. The businesses that hold that type of license. A nano brewer, for example, would hold a license under 178.12A. So the beverage manufacturer phrase is actually a term of art as it applies to this provision.
A term of art?
It has a specific meaning. It's not used generically. Beverage manufacturers are defined in the law under RSA 175:1. And so therefore, the provisions that are contained in the amendment allowing for a beverage manufacturer retail outlet only apply to that type of business.
So if they're going to be selling food, will they need to get a license from the Department of Health?
If they're going to sell it, yes. I mean, we're looking at this, for example, that the third-party vendor who sells them has to be a properly licensed vendor. So if I'll try to use this, explain this through an example. I'm manufacturer ABC. I take advantage of this opportunity. I pay my $336. I go and find a location for my retail outlet. I open it up. I have production capacity. Initially, I decide I want to do 4-ounce samples, which they can do. They can give it away, as the chairman mentioned, or sell it. If they decide I want to do pints as well, they could do that as well. If they decide they want to go further into the sense of providing a second 16-ounce beverage, then they have to provide food. And that goes to the discussion that the chairman had with you all about the importance of food in the process, and that it's important to try to prevent over-service, and that food oftentimes tempers the effects of alcohol. So the food that they provide can be produced by them, and if so, depending upon the type of food that they offer, if they make it there, then they would have to require and comply with the health requirements for that community. If it's prepackaged, then they probably would not. But they could also acquire their products, for example, from a third party. So maybe there's a caterer down the street who they have developed a rapport with, who says, I'd like you to sell my stuff here. And then if that goes over well, they can come down the street and buy it from me. So there's an opportunity here for the business to sell products that are already produced outside of their facility, or produced inside, or prepackaged materials.
Wow.
Okay. All right, Representative Johnson, do you have a question?
Yeah, so I'm just trying, I'm new to the committee. Thank you for taking my question. So I'm just trying to wrap my head around all of this. I've been listening so intently. So my question is, so if I am a brewer, so example, and I want to let somebody put my beer out there, I can only let one retail outlet sell my beer, I can't
No.
go.
No.
Okay,
Now,
so
you can have anybody who's an off-premise licensee can sell your beer for you. What this is, you want to own that location. Okay, and the 3-tier, remember the magic of the 3-tier, for whatever it's worth, was that was these Chinese walls between manufacturing, distribution, and retail, and how it's sold. So this is a slight trampling of the system, which we're going to say, if you're a manufacturer, you can actually own a retail location, an off-premise license, and but that they're obviously, if you have food, you're going to have to make sure that the food is, whoever's providing the food or whatever you're doing is properly licensed in that town, whatever the zoning is in that town about that food. But no, you can sell your beer to anybody. It's if you want to own that satellite location.
okay, thank you. I was getting confused.
I can understand this. It's taken me many years to get my arms around all this. So, okay. Any other questions for Aiden on part 2? All right. Part 3.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the amendment, on page 3, line 4 through 8, number 8, direct-to-consumer shipping permit. 17827B is the nuts and bolts, the guts around having those licensees who are listed there ship directly to New Hampshire consumers. This particular section would now enable a business, it creates a business opportunity, quite frankly, for anyone who might want to engage in this. But it does require that the shipment that is made to the consumer be made by a licensed carrier. The commission issues a carrier's license, and I guess most commonly you might look at it from the standpoint of if you see the beer trucks going down the highway, each of those beer trucks is issued a carrier's license from the Liquor Commission. So therefore, the decision was made that for the businesses who choose to engage in the direct-to-consumer shipping within the state must do so by using a licensed carrier. And that's what this provision does.
Okay. And they're all pretty much used to that anyways, because if they were doing self-distribution, they would have already had the number, already gotten registered, their vehicle.
Correct.
Registered.
Correct.
Okay. Any questions there? All right. That was an easy one.
The next issue is on page 3, number 9, and you'll see this is a new provision, which is not in the Amendment 745S. This changes and expands the definition of a beverage. This is a very convoluted area, and one that has seen revision probably over the last few years, almost every year. Some of it has to do with the static issues that exist within the law. Obviously, as legislators, you create a law, it's a snapshot in time, it addresses an issue as it exists today. Businesses who are in the process of manufacturing beverages, wine, liquor, beer, are constantly experimenting, developing new products, new methods of manufacturing, and it's somewhat difficult for the laws to keep up with the businesses that are in the business of producing alcohol. So this change is brought about by a change in the manufacturing process, where manufacturers now are producing a beverage not necessarily using the traditional malt products, but fermenting it or brewing these products now with other ingredients such as sugar. This change will now allow those products, which up to this point in time have not been eligible for the New Hampshire marketplace, to come in. And these products would come to the retailer and the New Hampshire consumer by means of New Hampshire beverage wholesalers. So that's how the product would come in. The vendor would sell it. And again, this applies to any of our licensees who are eligible to produce this. So it's not necessarily just people who exist out of state. This is applies to our New Hampshire beverage manufacturer. It applies to the nano brewer. It applies to the brew pub. All of them now are able to produce products based on this definition and get them into the marketplace, either by self-distribution or moving them to the beverage wholesaler supply side to get it to the consumer. That may be a little more convoluted.
That was
that's almost as convoluted as the definition.
Okay, we have two different tax rates out there, and we have the beer tax, which is 30 cents a gallon, and then we have those things that are distilled or wine based that potentially are 5% of the wholesale price. And so what we're having is this was a particular product, and generally I don't say names, but it's a spritzer, and it basically we already did it with Mike's Hard Lemonade where we went to the 8%. So this is a spritzer that's now going to 8%. It theoretically could have been treated as a distilled type product. So what we're doing is we're expanding our definition of exactly who is under the 8%, and who, because originally it was just flavored malt beverages, and we thought we were all set with the malt, but it turns out that there's always a new way to mix up something, and so this is going to help address that. But just keeps the channels consistent to what we have right now in terms of the beer distributors. This is a product that the beer distributors can distribute at the 30 cents a gallon rather than worried about the 5% tax. So, any questions on this one? So this piece is part of the reason why I'm calling this a non-germane hearing, because this was not really in the bills, but it really is all for the same subject of what we're trying to do here, which is to get more product in the hands of retailers. So, okay, on to the next section.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On page 3, line 20, number 10. As the chairman mentioned in the discussion earlier, the sampling issue has kind of evolved over time, and he did a very nice job of describing its evolution. This section proposes to provide nano brewers with the same privileges that exist for beverage manufacturers. If you recall, a beverage manufacturer can serve either 4-ounce samples or a 16-ounce pint. If they wish then to serve a second 16-ounce pint, they must have food available. Nano brewers under the current law are limited to 4-ounce samples only. And this amendment would propose to change that so that all of the manufacturers would be able to serve the same amount under the same conditions.
Hence the parity. And that's like 4 and 5. I mean, that's 2 sections, right?
This would be lines 20 through 25.
Okay. Amendment. Any questions on this? Okay.
And the last piece, Mr. Chairman, is line 26, number 11. Under the direct shipping provisions of 178.27, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I think Representative Herbert has.
Oh, Representative Herbert, do you have a question on the previous section?
Yes, sir. Just to clarify, the under the same conditions, and then Chairman Hunt said parity, and I'm wondering, is there I mean, in the restaurant business, there's like what that 10% rule. You have to have so much food if you're selling food per. It's a rule. You have to have the food there at 10% or more. So is that the measure, 10% that you're talking about here?
No, sir.
Okay.
A nano brewer has a couple of options. Under the current law, they can serve 4-ounce samples to consumers who come in, try their product. And if they wanted to then allow the consumer to sit down and consume alcohol just like they would in any other facility, they have to acquire another license, which is built into their statute, that gives them the eligibility to apply for a license under 17820, which is a restaurant license that serves beer and wine. And if they acquire that for $240, which is half the price of any other business that were to acquire that license, then they could now sell with food, with anything that could be considered food, products to their consumer. So rather than, we've kind of introduced in this particular section that middle ground, which would allow a nano brewer to say, I'm not ready to acquire, I don't necessarily want to get into the food area, but I still want people to be able to have that experience of sitting down, drinking a pint, and maybe even a second pint. So with this change, they would be allowed to do that moving forward. If they wanted to have that person have a third pint, then they would still need to acquire that license under 17820 to achieve that result. So it's kind of incremental, depending upon where they see their business going, how they want their business to evolve. If they want to just provide samples, they can do that. If they want to create more of a sit-down experience where someone can have one, maybe two, then food needs to be present. And if they really want to create that pub type environment, then they can acquire that restaurant license under 17820, which would allow them to operate as any other restaurant would operate.
So if they acquired that other license, they would, I'm sorry, further question, Chairman. So I haven't heard you say anything about a ratio of food to alcohol. And that's, does that not exist?
That does not exist, sir. If you, in way back when it did, I first came to work for the commission in 1981, and that existed at that time. Restaurants that are obligated to sell any type of limit or are subject to limitations are licensees that sell liquor. So they need to be able to sell and demonstrate to the commission annually that they sell $75,000 worth of food to be eligible to hold a license that allows them to sell spirits.
Correct.
But there is no ratio in the law, and hasn't been for some time.
Oh yeah, right. Okay. Joel Winters. I don't know if you remember Joel Winters. He sponsored that bill to fix that problem many moons ago. Okay. Last but not least.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The last piece is to repeal a limitation that existed in the law for direct shippers under 17827. And again, direct shippers are those businesses licensed who exist out of state who are shipping in to New Hampshire. And in the law, there was a limitation that prevented these out-of-state shippers from shipping beer to New Hampshire licensees. And this amendment changes that and allows now these licensees to order beer from out-of-state direct shippers if they want to. Maybe there's a product that they can't get in New Hampshire that exists out of state. They could order it and bring it in. So this would be removing the limitation that exists now and allowing licensees to be able to purchase out of state just as any consumer would.
With the limitations.
With the limitations, correct.
The caps. Okay. Any questions there? All right. Great. Thank you very much, Aiden. So just to wrap up, everyone, one of the things I have also been kind of, thinking about is we have another liquor bill that has two items in it that's also in this bill as it came over from the Senate. I don't know, what's that other Senate bill in the?
One amendment 10745S.
No, I'm saying the other Senate bill that's has the dogs.
Oh, sorry.
Doggies in it.
18, I believe, Senate Bill 18.
So that has the doggies in it, but it also has these other two sections already in this bill, which is the tenant brewer and the
Contract brewing for.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, it's Senate Bill 17, I believe.
17. Okay. So that bill has the other two issues of the contract brew and the tenant brew are in this bill. So I'm just going to point out, think that the doggy issue, I'm not sure we have seen the ends of dogs. And it's really, there's all kinds of things. So my attitude would be, is that bill, we would just retain that bill so that the liquor committee can talk about dogs until they're blue in their face. And then we'll just make sure that both the tenant and the contract is also still in this bill, and we'll leave it right in there. And that way this can be our omnibus liquor bill for this session. So, which I'm sure the Senate will just love. But all right, other than that, anybody have any other questions? So based upon a little bit of a survey we had here, it sounds like people are a little busy on the first couple of days of next week. So I'm going to aim thinking that I'm going to have a exec session on Thursday. Does anybody have a problem with doing Thursdays? The senators don't need to see what we're doing. They'll be busy having their own session, so they don't need to see us. So I will. So stay tuned for getting that notice, and we'll go from there. Yes, Representative Abramson.
I'm fine with Thursday, but I'm working on an amendment, or I'm having legislative services work on an amendment for Senate Bill 97. And I don't know what the language is going to be for that. They said that they were going to try and get it over to today, but I don't have it yet. So as soon as I have it, I'll send it out to the rest of the committee members.
That would be great. And then I do have a hand. Oh, Kate Fry. Okay. Kate Fry will do, let's have the last word. There she is.
Hi, Kate.
Good morning, Kate.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
I'm sorry, I signed up earlier to testify, so I'm sorry.
I did not see that, sorry.
Okay, sorry about that. So I guess I had testimony planned, and I am so confused by the description by Mr. Moore of this amendment that I just have more questions. And I guess my first question is, what amendment are we working from? Because the one that was posted in the general court website was 1237H. Do I understand?
That is correct. That is the
okay. It is the same one.
Yes.
But it sounds like Mr. Moore made additional changes.
No, what happened was there was a mistake that was made, and so the previous number was 1191. So members had seen it, that was not made to the public, and no, you never saw that one. So, but yes, 1237 is the one we're looking at right now.
So the way I understand it now is that it completely changes the direct shipping law. And now I'm reading it in a very different context than I was before. So a couple questions I have. There was a fee previously, and it looks like there's no longer. In fact, it says there won't be a fee going forward. Is that because
so what we're doing is we're creating a new entity called direct to the consumer. And this might be confusing, but we'll just simply, the best way we can describe it is the direct shipper is for anyone who is not licensed in New Hampshire, but is selling alcohol outside of the state. That's what the direct shipping law was. And yes, there was the 8% tax. This section, this direct to the consumer, is only for New Hampshire licensees. And for New Hampshire licensees, they can ship directly to a consumer. They're already paying their taxes, whatever, if it's 30 cents a gallon or, wine, the 5%. So they're already paying the tax. So there's no need for us to collect another tax. And this is only for New Hampshire licensees who are shipping to New Hampshire citizens.
I understand that, but there's no fee.
We're not going to double tax.
But isn't there a fee?
I'm not double taxing nobody.
Isn't there a fee for the out of state?
Because we don't license them.
Okay, so but there's
We
no.
already licensed all these people.
Okay, currently. Okay. All right. So the other question I have, I got really confused about the discussion of tracking names and all of that, and the concern around that. And so I pulled out the form, and it looks like now the Liquor Commission doesn't even require, shipment reports are no longer required when you apply for a direct shipper license. So I'm wondering how you can even figure any of this information out if these reports are now saying you don't even need to send a shipment report. You just need to put in the approximate the costs.
Okay. So I'm pretty sure Aiden's not ready to answer that question, but I know Mark Armageddon is on and he hears that question, and I'll make sure that Mark follows up and we get an answer to that for you.
So, I mean, the question it would be there is how would you even track the tax at this point? Because you're not even listing it out.
Yeah, what form are you looking at? Do you have a
I'm
form
looking
number?
at the one right on the website. When you look up direct shipping, it says direct shipper form. And in red says very clearly, shipment reports are no longer required.
Okay.
And below
we'll get an answer for you on that one.
So I think that's going to be a big question because, how do you even estimate it at this point?
Okay.
Let's see. The other question I have is that this is basically, I understand what you're trying to do, but it's somewhat of a new licensing category with therefore more demands. So regarding the compliance checks that they're doing, it's somewhat limited because it's out of state. Does the Liquor Commission have enough staff and resources to do the compliance check now that basically it's open to anyone in New Hampshire?
You'll have to ask the Senate Finance and House Finance how they want to get rid of all the enforcement. So I cannot answer to that question of whether, I don't know.
I mean, I think that's regardless of, if they get rid of the 21 positions, then they're really going to be in trouble. But at least as is now, I'd just like to know the answer if they will have an additional demand for enforcement.
I would say no. So
is that the statement from the Liquor Commission?
That's my statement. I'm saying the commission.
So
I have no doubt in my mind that the commission has always gone in front of the legislature and say they need more enforcement and they need more people. I'm sure they always say that, but that's not our responsibility. Commerce's responsibility. We're the policy committee, and in terms of how well the departments do this, evidently our House Finance Committee thinks that they can be done without enforcement. So,
well, I guess that begs the question.
Asking that question, I cannot answer that for you.
I don't know if there's a revised fiscal note on that too, because along with that question too, I just wonder about the changes in the taxes with the definition of the specialty. With the new definition of beverage manufacturer. I'm not sure where that came from. That was not in any previous discussion, but my question now is this spirits as well? So you can shift around your categories now because you all fall under beverage. What happens to the specialty beverage from last year? And
these are I hear where you're going, and I understand your confusion, and I understand you're trying to create confusion, but I will have to assure you that that this is all well thought out. that, and I can certainly talk to you offline and help walk you through each one of these issues.
I
and
think
how
it's,
things are different.
it's just difficult because these amendments really some of these haven't been discussed at all with stakeholders. And so this would just be another reason to retain the bill.
All the
and answer the
stakeholders have
questions.
absolutely been here. I realize that New
We have not.
Futures is a stakeholder, and last time I checked, your stakeholder is that you're opposed to all of this. So, so I'm not sure how much more I can include you in the process and feeling comfortable with it. But the whole reason I'm held this hearing today and why we're doing this is that everyone had an opportunity to come in, and I can assure you that all stakeholders, barring New Futures position, are in support of what we're doing here.
So it wasn't anticipated that way to work with the other stakeholders.
It was anticipated, and they were anticipated, and they were invited to testify.
Okay.
So if you know somebody else who has a problem with this bill, please let them
But-
know to contact me, and I'll hold another one. If you want
I'm
another
just-
hearing, if you want to have another one of these hearings, we can do that if there's somebody who needs more detail, more information or understanding. But like I said, if you, I can see the attendees list, and obviously I guess you can't see it, but I pretty much everybody and anybody, they're there. They're all there, and they know this is happening, and they're all in accordance with it.
Yeah, so I guess my point is it's if some people saw this and got agreement before others, then it's just too bad there wasn't an opportunity for us to weigh in as well. I think there are parts of the amendment we don't have any problems with.
Well,
but
let me pose a question to you.
manufacturers
Is there
do.
anything in this bill, this amendment, that you agree with?
Yeah, I think as the form that I saw last week, I actually was feeling much better about it. And now I saw this and it's so different from the bill that was got last week.
But we think we made it better here. So
Okay, well, I would just encourage the committee to look closely at some of these questions, and I'll be curious to get a response from the Liquor Commission on my questions.
Fair enough. Representative Van Houten, do you have a question?
I do. Thank you. I'm sorry. I was going to check this myself, and I wanted to hear Kate's queries and comments, because I do respect what she has to say. So my question is a nuts and bolts question. SB 14, does anyone recall? That's Senator D'Alessandro's, I believe it was direct shipping. Was that rolled into this? And I
No,
could.
that is a separate issue, because that's dealing with just the Liquor Commission getting into the direct shipping. And so it doesn't have anything to do with any of these regulations.
Okay. Thank you. I was going to check it myself. As I said, I wanted to listen. So thank you.
Yep, fair enough. And Representative Herbert.
Thank you, Chairman Hunt. This is the Finance Committee, if I understand you correctly, has basically gutted the investigative force over at Liquor
The
Commission.
Enforcement Division, yes.
The Enforcement Division.
Yeah.
I find that very troublesome. Yeah, and especially from a standing committee that supposedly is trying to make laws in reference to that have big revenue impacts. So I don't know.
I
can
can
we
assure you
object?
that they know that I have let them know in no uncertain terms that the path they're going down does not make any sense to me. That the enforcement plays a very important role in our making the Liquor Commission work. They were hanging their hat on the audit. And I have a lot of problems with that audit. And I've pointed out to them, for example, one of the issues they were very concerned about is they talk about how some businesses don't get audited. And how can we be doing this if we don't audit everybody? And I pointed out to them that another New Hampshire tax, other than we have a rooms and meals tax, and I have been in the vacation rental business for almost 15 years now, and I have never been audited. So the idea to get rid of the auditing department because they haven't used it doesn't make any sense to me, but that is their position. And we can only hope that when the bill comes out, when the 1 and 2 come out of the Senate, this section will have been removed from the bill. We can only hope. So
Keep up the good work. Make sure they put some people back in there to enforce the
it's
law.
absolutely. I said to him, "So are you going to put in more auditors? If you're going to get rid of the enforcement?" And they said, they just shrugged their shoulders. So I'm not, I'm not going to get into, picking a fight with another committee, but I can assure you that I have let them know my personal feelings that they have gone down the wrong path with this. But
thank you.
Yes. Keith, did you want to weigh in?
Yeah, I was just going to say, why would you say publicly that you haven't been audited in 15 years?
Haven't been audited. It's a fact. Right. I shouldn't keep that a secret, shouldn't I?
Exactly.
Well, if you're not doing anything illegal, then there's no problem.
I have no need to be audited, and I certainly don't look forward to being audited or having life audited. But I'm just saying that, if audited is so important to the finance committee, they might be questioning whether the other even bigger department of revenue are they doing their audits too. So, but I don't know. So I guess they haven't gone and drilled down to rooms and meals, but I do think this whole thing with the tax, using that same tax on car rental companies, I think we should just get rid of that tax altogether. I think that the car rental tax was created as a short term when times were tough, and I don't think it brings in a lot of money. And I think we should just repeal the tax altogether, and that would solve another problem.
So if we just keep reducing the revenue and over year after year, where are we going to meet our obligations?
Are you kidding? The rooms and meals revenue has gone through the roof, and the Liquor Commission is delivering plenty of money. I mean, like I say, for myself, I pay over $15,000 a year in rooms tax. So they're
only pay tax if you make money.
I only pay tax if I rent. The tax is direct. It doesn't have anything to do whether I make money or not. That's the BET. That's a different tax that I have to pay. So, at any rate, we all set. Everybody comfortable, and so we'll see you all next Thursday.
Business profits tax, the BET, people can lose money and still have to pay the BET.
That's correct. That's right. Okay. Thank you all, and